Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So my name is Victor, and I'm going to be your anchor for this training. So this is the Cisco CyberOps Cybersecurity Operations Associate training. It's a series with 28 modules. It's quite intense. So we will begin by starting up with the very first module. Now, at this stage in the series, you definitely have some basic idea about computers. You have some basic idea about websites, basic idea about networks, basic idea about basics of cybersecurity. You know what is confidentiality, you know what is integrity, you know what is authentication. So we want to go a little bit deeper to understand cybersecurity following through a module that is well known, that is well accredited. So it has 28 modules. So we go step by step. So this is the very first module and it's very short, goes swiftly, and within a moment we're going to be done. So make sure you take your notes. If you have questions, don't forget to ask within the mentorship group. And let's start. Okay, this module have some objectives. So what are the objectives? Why networks and data are attacked? So we want to understand before we start trying to protect, why do we have our networks? Why do we have our websites? Why do we have our IT infrastructure being attacked? So there are several reasons to that, ranging from hack value, personal identifiable information, health information, records, things of competitive intelligence, data that have to do with wealth creation, data that have to do with intellectual property. All of these and more are why we have our data, our website, our web portal, typically all of our IT infrastructure being attacked. Then we want to look at threat actors. Who are these people behind all of these attacks? We want to be able to classify them, we want to be able to understand them. Then in threat impact, we want to be seeing what are those things that are aftermath of our attack. If we have an attack now, what is going to be the potential impact? What is going to be the aftermath? What is going to be the resultant effect of such kind of attack? War stories. Now, there's what we call the honeypot or the evil twin. If somebody have, for instance, a just last week, I just finished up a research on honeypot and deceptive techniques when it comes to protecting IT infrastructure, with focus on web applications. So I deployed something that looks like a honeypot, like a rogue. For instance, an attacker comes to a particular website. Instead of you patching up the website and making it secure, no, you leave some room. You leave like a honey. You leave like something that looks like your website is or web application is vulnerable. So the attacker scans your website, he sees that vulnerability, he tries to access those pages. But what you're going to be trying to do is that you're going to be picking up his data, you're going to be storing it in the database, pick his IP address, pick his browser, pick his location, pick any other information of importance so that you can better understand these attack vectors. You can better understand these attackers. You can better understand how they go about doing the attack. With respect to a network, if you want to deploy this on a network, it's very synonymous to what we call the evil twin. So you have, let's say, ISOSEC, or let's say IBM is the name of a router, Wi-Fi, SSID. You have another one. So IBM one, IBM two. So if you want to browse, if you want to get to the network, or if you want to get to the internet, you can connect to either of them. So one is passworded, one is locked, one is the most that one is the secured one. Whereas the other one is open. But why are we creating these two networks? We want to actually understand people that will have motives that are not actually clear cut. So attackers use these techniques to try to attack people. They stay around areas where you have legitimate network and create another one, same name, maybe just change the last word or say two or say network five, network three. people that are not very diligent, they will connect to those networks, and when they connect to those networks, these attackers can actually steal their information. So at times companies get ransomware. Then you have nations being attacked. You hear the US is against China, China, Russia. So most of these countries, because the thing you need to understand is that if a country, if a business, if a people use technology to drive most of their processes. It can be their government processes, that is e-governance. It can be their business processes, that is e-business. It can be anything. Once they start digitizing, it then means that they cannot be susceptible to attacks. So nations get attacked, right? You have the whole health system in the digital, digitalized. What will happen is that if you have your health record here, you go to another state, you want to get medical health, you want to get health care, you just need to give your number, they get to see your results. Or for instance, for a school, you need to print statement of result, you need to print something, just that ID. Once nations, cities, companies, uh, whatever is being digitized, they lure themselves to attack. Of course, we're going to be looking at countermeasures later on. Okay, you have a video here about the anatomy of an attack. Please log into your Cisco LMS and make sure you watch the video. If you have any questions, please do well to ask in the mentorship group. Now, we're going to be using some tools in this Cisco CyberOps training. About three tools. One of them is that you should make sure you have your virtual box. Oracle Virtual Box installed is a virtualization software, is a hypervisor. Most of us that have done most of the things in web security OWASP and you've run some labs, you must have these already, so you don't need to install it all afresh. Then you're going to be downloading the Cisco CyberOps virtual machine. So it's a virtual machine that have a kind of a same infrastructure. It also has Wireshark. It has some tools that you can use to be able to mimic and learn what your activities are going to be like if you're going to work in a SOC, in a Security Operations Center. Okay, threat actors. So you have different threat actors. They can be amateurs, they can be hacktivists. So amateurs are guys that are going to be using tools and techniques and softwares that are not created by them. So they go to YouTube, they go to the internet, they go to Google, search out for a software that can do ABC. They pick up those softwares and they try to um, commit any harm. And what do you call a hacker or a black hat hacker? So anybody that's going to cause system malfunction, right? If anybody's going to cause system malfunction, uh, of course, scan a system without permission. So you call that person a hacker. So you can classify them in several ways. So the amateurs are those, like I said, without any thorough training, they can pick up tools, learn the guide, learn the tutorial, and try to cause havoc with that. Then hacktivists. So those that are going to be trying to promote a cause. It can be gayism, it can be lesbianism, it can be maybe child rights, it can be a free world, it can be that we need free internet, it can be that the money should be shared to there should money should not be worked for. So you have people promoting different sort of things, right? So if they use the internet, if they use technology without permission, right, in order to achieve that, you call them hacktivists. Of course, you have organized crime groups, state-sponsored hackers, and of course, terrorist groups. So you see the explanation I gave a while ago. So you have amateurs, you have hacktivists, you have financial gain, people that try to look at intellectual property and see how they can steal up those information, trade them. It can be bank details, it can be credit card numbers, it can be whatever. They have trade secrets and global politics. This is where nations play. Of course, you see in most countries, as regards their elections, as regards things of critical importance, other countries that have that want competitive advantage or that we need a country to go down or for a country to not to do well, they tend to try to use technology to pilfer, look into data, try to spread false information, try to use any of the different techniques we're going to be learning throughout this course to cause a hack. So what do you call a hack? Once something goes against the norm, so you call that a hack. So another thing we're looking at is, don't forget, we're looking at the danger, security of Internet of Things. So what do you call Internet of Things? So Internet things. So you have devices, you have applications, you have softwares, you have your phone, you have your car, you have your house, you have your AC, you have your TV set, you have your door, you have your appliances, you have your cameras, IP cameras. If you can control these things over the internet, that is simply you deploying Internet of Things. Somebody comes to my house to deliver a parcel, but my car and my gate is connected via Wi-Fi to a router at home. I'm in my office, so I could call, make sure, see the person through the camera, IP camera at home. I can open the gate, as I can say, go in. I say, okay, have you seen the car? I open the boot of the car, please drop the parcel. I close the boot of the car. I say, please, you can now leave. He leaves, and I lock the gate. You have remote controlled gates, and you have different devices. So the point is that once we have all of these, you see people even on the traffic, you have your Bluetooth device connected to somebody else's Bluetooth device, right? So that's simply a peer-to-peer network. What about if that device is over the internet? What about if an IP address is over the IP phone, or an IP camera is over the internet? So these things can be hacked. One of the reasons why is that some of them, they are not patched, they are not updated. Your software company or your antivirus company is always going to do what we call patch or updates. So most of the reasons for this patch and updates is just to better secure your system. So they have some of these vulnerabilities, the research has been done, they patch the anti to them, put it on their servers. Once that is on their servers, what happens is that once you update, you take up those patch, you update your signature, so that when you have an attack, you can better be able to mitigate such kind of attack. So that is one of the things that we have that is not going that well with respect to Internet of Things. Many devices on the internet are not updated, right? With the latest firmware, software, updates, security patches, and the rest. So these situations will create opportunity for threat actors for them to be able to explore the vulnerabilities of these applications, for these softwares, for this hardware, and now take them down. Now, there's a lab research, if you check your Cisco LMS, on you to be able to research some of the IoT application vulnerabilities. This is just a simple Google search. You can go through it and let us know your thoughts in the mentorship group. Direct impact. So the thing now is that what is going to be the resultant effect of these attacks? We have our PII, we have our EMI, EMR, we have our PHI, we have our PII. Just information. Information is good, data is good. So we are moving in the era of, used to be an era of uh, the internet. So the internet was a very big thing that happened late 90s, 2000. Of course, the US military, of course, started the internet, used it for most of their ventures and the rest. I mean, global usage. So late 90s, 2000, 2000s, what we call the dot com boom. So you have a lot of dot com, late 94, 95, in companies going online. So we had a lot of vulnerabilities there. Now, later on, we moved to people, businesses getting online, the website. It got to do with, we later have started talking about mobile. So the mobile era where we started having smartphones. We are not having Java, Symbian, and basic phones. We started having feature-rich phones. So because they're having feature-rich phones, most of these data are no longer domiciled on paper, on racks. They are now on the cloud because of the dot-com boom. They're now in our mobile. So people now carry them, and most platforms now give you the opportunity to be able to sign up, register, make edits, make changes to this your data. For the fact that we have personal identifiable information readily available and can be changed, can be edited, can be extracted, can be adjusted by the user himself, of course, it then means that the user is closer to the attacker. So data is no longer with just the government and the big institutions. Data is now in the hands of the users. So all of the records, medical records, the personal identifiable information, you no longer need to go to your bank to open an account. No, you no longer need to do that. You don't need to go to an office to file for your tax returns or to file for your annual returns or to file for whatever. In the comfort of your home, you could download an app, you could register, you could sign up, you could request for an ATM even, and you go to your nearest branch and it's picked up, or you could request for delivery. So it then means that this information that we have, people can actually steal, they can actually clone, they can use social engineering, which is dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, eavesdropping, tailgating. These are social engineering techniques. We're going to look at them later on. People cannot use these techniques in order to gather this information from the user because the user is now with this information. It's no longer with the bank. You don't need to walk into your bank to make changes to stuff. No, you could download the form, make changes, send it to your bank, and within 24, 48 hours, all of those changes are being made. Competitive advantage, right? So people can lose their intellectual property, right? Then we have politics, national security, like I've explained earlier on. So governments are now involved. States, because you have state-sponsored hackers. Countries are now sponsoring hackers to cause some disruptions, right? Uh, Within their enemy nation. Now you have a lab which is visualizing the black hat. So it's still very basic research. This course starts with some very basics, then of course goes advanced. You will research, analyze cybersecurity incidents to create scenarios, highlight how organizations can prevent or mitigate an attack. So it's very important that you do this lab. Is in your Cisco LMS. You go to that particular file, it's a PDF file, download it, walk through, you'll see the instructions, just go through it. You will see different scenarios. So you can brainstorm how you're going to try to mitigate such type of attack. So this is going to put you in the mode of an attacker. And as a cybersecurity expert, you want to ask yourself, how am I going to stop an hacker? Because we say you cannot beat a hacker if you're not a hacker. So you need to think like a hacker to beat a hacker. So the summary, what have we learned here? We've learned that threat actors can hijack banking sessions using the evil twin hotspot. I explained that concept in detail. You have different actors in different categories: amateurs, hacktivists, organized crime groups, state-sponsored hackers, and also terrorist groups. So Internet of Things is playing a role. For instance, IP version 4 address can give us close to 4 billion IP addresses. So, but because of IP version 6 and because of NAT, network addressing protocol, or network address translation, which is a protocol within networks, we can have as many billions of IP addresses as possible. So that has given room for most homes, most offices, most persons having different type of devices. Some people have like 4 phones. Some people have 5 cameras at home, 10 cameras in their office, personal office. Some people have different devices that will have to use the internet. So because of these devices, we are now prone to different forms of attack. And of course, we looked at several types of information: the PII, EMR, the PHI, and the PII. Okay, what are some of the new words that you've learned? Evil twin hotspot, programmable logic controllers, threat actors, So these programmable logic controllers, you have them in your IoT devices. Then of course, threat actors, distributed denial of service is when you have more than one node, one person, multiple people trying to cause a denial, trying to hack a particular service. And if it's just one node, one person trying to attack, you call it denial of service. What is once is multiple uh, sources, once the attack is coming from multiple sources but well coordinated and planned, you call that a distributed denial of service. And what do you call a denial of service? You cannot access a website, you cannot access a network, you cannot upload to a website, you cannot print, you cannot have access to your files. Any service that is of great importance to your business continuity, once you cannot do that, you call that a denial of service. But as a caveat, you want to make sure that you don't have denial of service as a result of maybe your downtime in your hosting, your router have issues, or you didn't configure properly, you don't have drivers for your devices, any of those stuff. You want to make sure that is out of the game. If that is out of the game, then uh, that will give you a basic understanding of how a distributed denial of service can happen. And of course, there are several platforms that can help you mitigate this attack. A classical example is Cloudflare. So Cloudflare can help you against distributed denial of service for your web applications. Of course, you have Imperva, you have so many of them. Then for devices also, for networks, you have different types of switches and routers that are that have security in their design to help you mitigate such attacks. So you have Internet of Things, you have PII, you have all of this other data. Then you have some laws, not to forget. Depending on the country where you're watching this video from, some of us are from Europe, some of us are within Africa. Depending, you want to make sure that you check out the law with respect to your country. Most countries have adapted a GDPR, which is a European regulation, EU law. So most countries have adapted this and localized it. So please check your national data protection regulation or whatever your country calls it. Study that guide and be able to understand what are those things that attackers are trying to look out for. And normally your country is going to put out the punishment for all of that. Okay, that will be all for the danger, the first module in the cybersecurity Cisco CyberOps training course. Thank you very much.